ever forgotten with you. There are no errors in judgment. Nothing like that ever happens with you. Everything is according to your design. We thank you for it. And Lord, we've got a lot of people on our prayer list for a variety of reasons. And my prayer is that you just be what we need. If we need health, you can be that. If we need encouragement, you can be that. You are so versatile to be everything and to fill every need in our life. And we give you not only permission, but we beg you and we plead that you would be that in our lives. Thank you for your goodness. Bless us tonight in Jesus' name. Amen. In Genesis chapter number 13, there is an intriguing encounter between the most famous phlegmatic in the Bible and some other family members. Beginning with verse number, let's start with verse 1. Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold. And he went on his journeys from the south even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, for they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. The fight was never between Abram and Lot, it was between their employees. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. This is a little important P.S. right here. There's a battle going on. There's a turf war between the herdmen of these two men. And it was important that this thing get settled quickly. Why? Because the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelt in the land, and they were watching what was going on. And so you don't want to do battle in front of people that don't know the Lord. There's a different way to handle that. And sometimes you might have to experience what you think is loss. So Abram said unto Lot, Abram was the uncle, Lot was the nephew. Abraham was older. He was the brother of Haran, who was the father of Lot. And so he is in the superior position. He's in the catbird seat. And he said, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between thy herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? I separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. And if thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. A pretty magnanimous gesture on Abram's part. Very phlegmatic, as a matter of fact. He could have said, all right, kid, you go there, and I'm taking the good part. Well, it just so happened, you know what Lot did. He chose the well-watered plains toward. Never moved into Sodom immediately. He just went toward Sodom and eventually wound up on the city council. And so when he made this decision to move into what appeared to be the best for his flocks, it turned out to be a pretty vicious trap that caught him and his family. It eventually it's going to cost his wife's life, and just a real mess is about to happen. And so here's the phlegmatic. And relaxation is an art form to this guy. If you are phlegmatic, how many of you in here are phlegmatic? You have phlegmatic tendencies. Well, okay. You'll probably recognize yourself in some of these slides and what we're doing here. But the world needs the phlegmatic. You are easygoing. You're peaceful. You have this level-headedness about you that is required in practically every situation. You are not gasoline on a fire. You are a calming effect wherever you go. You're the great balancer of life. You're even-tempered. Let me just get kind of specific. Sarah, does it take a whole lot to get you to... Okay, but I mean, you're not the explosive, that's what I'm saying. It takes a lot to get you to... Vicki, does it take a lot to get you to blow up? Okay. You're calm. Very seldom get excited about anything, good or bad. And that drives the choleric, the sanguine, and the melancholy nuts, by the way. The sanguine, bless his heart, let's look. The sanguine gets excited about everything, new stuff. You want to tickle a sanguine to death, buy them a little gift, get them something new. But when Stacy goes off on a trip, says, I got you something, I'm like, oh, when you coming home? When you coming home? You know, I can't wait to get home. See what it was as news. You're eternally a child, and that'll never change. We'll always have this bright-eyed view about life. But anyway, the sanguine is just excited about everything. And then then the choleric is excited about work. Got a new project. I hear Jamie and his granddaddy, or Jamie, but Jeremy's granddad Dale, when they're talking before church, you know what they're talking about? Work. I got 8-inch piece of angle. You know, I'm gonna cut it off at a 45 and I'm gonna weld it up under there. That's what they talk about. They talk about work. And so if you're choleric, you talk about work. You get excited about projects and things like that. And then we've got the melancholy. Somewhere in here is a melancholy, and they're excited about perfection. They get excited about doing things right. And then it's so appropriate for that not to work right now. There's the phlegmatic. They're just sort of standing around, staring at us, wondering what all the excitement's about. What you excited about? Yeah, they're waiting for somebody to point them in the right direction here. And okay, and that's true. But you phlegmatics have some tremendous strengths, okay? And let me tell you about your strengths. You have the ability to stay straight on course. You're like a train. This is your favorite vehicle, a train. And you've got tracks that are straight and even. Yep. And all you got to do is just get on the trail and just keep right on going. You have the patience to put up with provokers. Cholerics are provokers. Melancholies can be provokers. Sanguines can be provokers. And you phlegmatics just kind of like, you just calm, steady, easy. You have the ability to listen while other people are yada, 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 yada. Did you hear the one about well, you need to get this. You just have the ability to stay calm in the midst of all the verbal tornadoes going on around you. You have the gift of mediation. You can unite opposing forces. Therefore, you make great counselors. You make great doctors. You're not plagued with these spikes of emotion. And you have the ability to procure peace almost at any price. That's your biggest thing. Can everybody just calm down? Just everybody settle down? Can you quit hollering? Can you quit screaming? Because if you're trying to motivate a phlegmatic through your voice or your tone or your anger, you're wasting your time. It will never work. The louder you get, the harder they sit on their seat. The deeper they dig their heels in the mud. You're not going to move them anywhere. What happens if a dog gets a sock and you get the other end of the sock and you start pulling? What does he do? He starts pulling back. All right? Keep that in mind next time you try to argue a phlegmatic into doing something. The more you are, well, I just don't understand why he doesn't see well, that ain't the point. I don't understand why, why doesn't the choleric see that's not the way you motivate the phlegmatic. And so they have the compassion to comfort people that are hurting, folks that are, they're broken, they're in a state of loss right now. These people feel more empathetically than any of the other temperaments. They have this determination to keep their head while everybody else is losing theirs. That's just your strength. And you have the ability to live your life in such a way that your enemies don't have a whole lot to say about you. Matter of fact, a phlegmatic often acts more like a Christian before they're saved than other temperaments do after they're saved. Kind of hard to tell the difference, at least on the surface. And they are the easiest of all the temperaments to get along with, if that is your type. And they're kind of like the WD-40 of life. You know, when everybody else is, you know, and is getting really heated up, they can just spray themselves, and all of a sudden, things just seem to be moving a little more smoothly. And so they walk down the middle of life's roads without any extremes. Now, sanguine is extreme in everything. Their gestures, their voice. The cholerics are extreme in their control. The melancholies are extreme in their perfection. But this guy isn't extreme in anything. They live to do, well, let's see, they are, how can I put this? They're nonplussed about work, physical labor. They look for the simplest, easiest way to do it from the chair. You know, if they can do it with a remote, they're going to do it with a remote. They have a dry sense of humor that a lot of people don't get. The phlegmatic can whack up, a phlegmatic child, for instance, can whack his mama and his daddy up like cheese, and mom and dad don't even know they've been cut. And the phlegmatic child is walking to the bedroom going, you know, they've got a wonderful dry sense of humor, and they're normally very nice people. But these folks have some tremendous strengths, and but you resent being motivated. You don't want anybody telling you need to get this done. I know what I need to do, okay? Well, that's their way of saying, you've just invaded my space, and I'll stay here just as long as I want to stay here. But now, can that be a problem? Yeah, when you've got X amount of time to get something done, you know, somebody, and if there doesn't appear to be any motion toward getting that done, somebody has to light a match, and this is what the phlegmatic doesn't like. They resent being motivated, and they can resist your motivation through their dry humor and wit, stubbornness, which is formidable. Have you noticed? Have you ever dealt with this kind of a person and you tried to push them? What was their reaction? Yeah, y'all.
My frustration.
This.
Rake up some hay plant out at Daddy's house to cut down, and we had Joe Justin's friend or something there, and all Nathan wanted to do was just hoorah and that sort of thing. I remember I got so mad at Daddy, but it did motivate.
Good. Well, the weaknesses of you phlegmatics, they're not obvious. They're kind of under the radar. Now, when a sanguine is nuts, everybody knows it. When a choleric goes nuts, everybody knows it. When a melancholy nut goes nuts, everybody knows it. When a phlegmatic goes nuts, you don't even recognize it. It's all going on underneath. All right, and pardon?
Until it explodes.
Yeah.
Nathan, you're talking about being so even-tempered, and Nathan always was as a child. And one day when we were in our mobile home out at the ranch, I heard this bam, 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 and I got to the end of the hallway, and there was Nathan at the end of the hall with his teddy bear, just banging the wall with his teddy bear. I said, what is it? He never did anything like that. I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm mad.
Oh, there you go. One of your greatest strengths, by the way, is your obvious lack of weaknesses. And because of that, the phlegmatic thinks they don't have any. Because it's not the overt, external kind of an explosion that everybody else has. And so they just sort of live their lives quietly worrying, quietly being disturbed about things, but in fact, you will probably never know that. Now, let's look real quick. I think there's one more. There it is, and one more. Okay. The phlegmatic weaknesses. I'm going to have to get up. I can read this to you. They are unenthusiastic. What do you get excited about if you're a phlegmatic? What did your phlegmatic child get excited about regularly? Nothing. All right. Telescopes. They're fearful. They are indecisive. Where do you want to go? I don't care. Where do you want to go? I don't care. Now, they do. They just don't want to come out with it because they're afraid that somebody's going to disagree with them or something. No, we're not going to do that. So they're indecisive, they're uninvolved, they are nonchalant, they are compromising, they are reluctant, they are doubtful, they mumble a lot to themselves. They don't want to talk out loud because they're afraid you might not like it. And very sluggish, they're hesitant, they're timid, they're a worrier, they're just sort of blank. And what Jeremy said is so true. They need direct motivation. A phlegmatic husband doesn't have a problem in his marriage. You understand what I'm saying? Phlegmatic wife doesn't have a problem. He does, or she does, but my marriage is fine. I have actually had people sit in my office and had one or the other say that. My marriage is fine. And the other one just go, you know, right? No, it's not fine. It's really not. And so there was I read a story about a young man that came over to spend the night with a buddy of his, and the mother was asked if he'd like to stay for dinner. And so he said, well, I'll think about it when time comes. And she asked him, said, is there anything that you want to watch on TV? He said, no, whatever y'all want to watch. And so they watched a Dodgers game. And in just a little while, he tells his buddy, he said, I really didn't want to watch the Dodgers game. And the mother heard it. She said, why didn't you tell me? I asked you what it was. I was afraid you wouldn't like it. I was afraid that you wouldn't like me not wanting to watch a Dodgers game. And so you understand, when you go through life being afraid to make decisions, people make decisions for you, right? And you probably will resent having decisions made for you. And so you're going to dig your heels in at everything. And so they normally do not have temper tantrums. And when they do, it probably could have happened 6 months ago. But they have a way of just suppressing it because people might not like it. If I get mad, they might not like it. If I say this, you know, somebody is not going to like that. And but all of the temperaments love the phlegmatic. The sanguine loves them because they make great uninterrupting audiences. You can tell jokes and they'll laugh. You know, that's all the phlegmatic needs from the sanguine. The choleric loves them because they're perfect candidates to ooh and ah at their brilliant decisions and plans. Now, when you don't give that, what does the sanguine do? Well, they get their feelings hurt. Well, I thought that was really funny, or I thought that was so cute. And, you know, again, the phlegmatic knows how to get to you by, it was all right. And then the choleric comes along. It's got this great plan, this wonderful, organized, okay, that's what you want to do. Well, that's kind of an insult to his plan. And so he's going to express his anger at that. And then the melancholy loves them because they're quiet and content with the status quo. Don't want to change anything. The phlegmatic doesn't like change. Have you noticed that? You go to work the same way. You eat the same foods at the same restaurants. I find myself doing that. Anybody do that? You go to a restaurant and order the same thing at a restaurant? I get the same thing. When I go to Manny's, I get the same thing. Yeah, all the decision making. You don't have to worry about that. And do what? Yeah, if it works, why change it? Exactly right. So the phlegmatic is a low maintenance. You don't need to go tweak them very often. They're low maintenance people. They take care of themselves, and they're going to find a comfortable spot on the couch, and you won't have to worry about them. And if you have a phlegmatic baby, they're content with whatever position they're in. If you turn them over, they'll stay there. Choleric, I'm talking about a baby now, an infant. You can tell early. When can you start? Almost immediately from bringing them home from the hospital. The cleric is standing in the crib at some point, looking out the bars, trying to figure out how to take the joint over. And they will. You know, they'll have mom and dad trained like SEALs within just a few months with their temper so anyway, it just doesn't take long for a phlegmatic to come to understand that their unenthusiastic approach to life aggravates other people. Have you noticed, anybody get aggravated at non-action on Stacy? You have some of that at work, right? Yeah, there's some of that at work, at her work. And, you know, you see what needs to be done. And what do you do? Those of you who are choleric or melancholy, when you see something that needs to be done, what do you do it? What do you do? You do it. What does a phlegmatic do? He doesn't see it. Well, be something in the floor. Walk around it. Step over it. But, you know, it's not a priority. And so those of you who are of different temperament, oh, my word. Again, you know, the child that doesn't see the mess, I don't see a problem. It can create some real stress in the home if the mom and dad don't refer to Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go according to his bent. Now, is there a way to motivate a phlegmatic? Yes, there is. There's a way to teach and to train and to get them excited about doing things, but it's not what you do to a choleric child. It's completely different what you do. All right? Their strengths. All right. Let me get back. I think there's one more. He's coming. Be patient with him. There he is. All right. Your strengths. You're submissive to authority. Matter of fact, you love authority. You like people telling you what to do. That way you're not responsible for coming up with your own action, your own plan of action, your own whatever is required for you to do. So you're very diplomatic. Sarah is a very diplomatic person. Vicki, I've just got to meet her, but from what I've seen in the few weeks that I've known her, she's been in pretty stressful situations. Very diplomatic, very calm, and so that is important in many situations. They're very adaptable. They're kind of like, y'all know what a utility infielder is in baseball? A utility infielder can play third base, or he can play first base, or he can play center field, or second base. I mean, they can play anywhere. So you can put a phlegmatic anywhere, and they're going to perform basically the same way, just calm, peaceful. They're going to bring oil to the water. They are inoffensive. Anybody in here ever been offended with something Sarah Spencer said? I've known you, 27 years? I don't think I have ever heard you say anything, not to me, that would be considered, oh, wow, she shouldn't have said that, you know. I've never heard that. They are contented. They are balanced. They're controlled. They are very tolerant, friendly. They are obliging. They are satisfied, patient, shy. They are adaptable. That's what you've got. Now, if a family doesn't have a phlegmatic child, rent one. Bring a phlegmatic child, and that child will bring a sense of peace to the situation here. Now, what's a person to do? There are some problems with the phlegmatic, and so let's look at these. We'll wind up with the good things. They're not exciting people. They're not going to be your Steve Martins. They're not going to be up on the platform telling the funniest jokes, singing songs. They're not going to do that. These are the kind of folk, if you want to get a job done that is like repetitious, they make good workers on assembly lines, putting carburetor, and that's all they do all day long. Exactly. It's preset. It's pre-cut. It's the Lucy and Ethel chocolate factory episode, if y'all remember. Of course, Lucy was anything but phlegmatic. But they're not. Don't expect your child, honey, don't you know you can be the best baseball player and you just get out there and just shine. That's not their desire. They don't want to shine. They just want to be left alone. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so they're not excited. Don't expect that. And so, you know, they can use his lack of enthusiasm as a form of quiet control, chuckling under their breath while mom and dad shoot blood out their eyes, trying to figure out how can we get this kid, and it's a game to the phlegmatic child anyway, how to not get excited. They resist change. I'm talking about anything. Now, I have come to the conclusion that I'm sanguine phlegmatic. Would you agree that that's probably, I think, probably more than any other thing? And I resist change. I don't like to get rid of stuff. I've had it for clothes. I don't like to get rid of clothes. And, you know, we've lost a bunch of weight, and Stacy one night was like, all right, we're trying on all your shirts and pants. And I'm like, can we do this tomorrow? No, we're going to do this tonight. And so I had to put on every shirt. And, of course, your shoulder seam is supposed to come across the top of your shoulder. Well, these now were down here. And it was a pretty shirt. I don't get rid of it. Nope, that was gone. And, you know, I had a school pile that went to Emmaus Baptist College, and then it was the pants. And it just, I was like, there's not another pair of pants like this in the world. John, you know what I'm talking about. There's not they made one shirt, and I have it. And if I get rid of this shirt, there's just not another shirt. And so we resist change. If you change a routine on something, it throws them off. I don't know how long it takes for them. They changed my schedule last year, I guess. I've been Tuesday, Wednesday forever. I'd spend Tuesday night over at school, teach Tuesday and Wednesday. Then they moved me to Monday night. So now I'm teaching Monday and Tuesday. And so I was like, that was a frustrating thing until I got accustomed to it. And so if you're phlegmatic, you resist change. Hairstyles. There are people that change hairstyles every 6 weeks. And then there are people that they don't have to worry about that. Right? You comb your hair with a wet wash rag these days, you know. But they resist change on every front. They do the same thing the same way and love it. It works, right? So why change it? Why fiddle with it if it works? And I agree with that. You know, if something is that's not the latest one of these. But it works. You know, it works. All right. Now, phlegmatics seem lazy for actually a pretty good reason. They are exactly right. They love to relax. They don't get out of bed looking for stuff to do. And that, if you're a parent or a grandparent, once you can get them out of bed, right? Now, choleric will hit the floor looking for what? Get up in the morning, and what are they ready to do? Work. And they've got a list that they made probably last night at the latest, and they've got stuff that they've got to get done today. And then the melancholy has got stuff they got to research. You know, they've got to do some more study on some things. But then this guy, grass can be that high. I don't see a problem. You know, stuff needs to be done. I don't. You know, or they're going to postpone that for a more convenient time. They have a quiet will of iron. They are. Did you find Nathan to be stubborn? Very stubborn. Cheryl. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his famous little joke. Were you stubborn as a child, Vicki? You don't remember? Okay. Sarah, were you kind of stubborn as a child? Not a lot? Okay. They have a quiet will of iron. Once they make their minds up, this is what I'm going to do, God bless you. And really? Was she pretty stubborn? How do you deal on the job, for instance? You've got a phlegmatic on the job, and their job affects you. And so when they don't do their stuff, it spills over onto you. How do you handle phlegmatics in your workplace? Work around them. Like they do the trash in the road, you just walk around them and keep going. Okay. And his. What, do you say anything to him, or you just let him go, or what? Okay. Okay. How else? Stacey, how do you handle those people? Okay. Thank God you don't have to work with anybody like that. Sarah? Right. Okay. 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 Right. Okay. Okay. Anybody else have an example of this? There you go. But yeah, dude, you need to go. You just need to go. But there was a lot of sanguine involved in that too, wasn't it? An awful lot. Just okay. Yeah. All right. Anna. Oh my goodness. This is we phlegmatics. We're great procrastinators. Tomorrow is the busiest day in our life. I'm gonna get that done tomorrow. You struggle with that? I get that done tomorrow. I got stuff that, it'll be done tomorrow. And I'm grateful, really, for a melancholy choleric that sort of keeps me accountable. I'm much more accomplished because of her. If I was by myself, oh my word. And so she sort of keeps me accountable, for deadlines. One fellow said one time, I love deadlines, especially that whooshing sound they make as they go by. Well,
It's too bad Nathan's not here to hear this because the Lord is so unmerciful. But my hat has gone off to Nathan. I have told him, but he's had a lot of work to do on that house that they're living in. Wallpaper that went from one wall across the ceiling and
oh my
down
word.
the other side, and he's pulled all that.
Done it all.
He's paneling and got it down to the original what's that, beadboard, and sanded
Okay.
it. And
Well, good for Nathan. Good for Nathan.
he's done a lot of work.
But he also had deadlines.
Yeah, he did. Pretty significant deadline of that.
And I'm proud of him for it.
I'm looking for the day that Lorraine will come back out to shop and visit with us from time to time. But now,
Right now, don't even step in there.
look through the door.
Well,
18 miles before you put the shop and blew past.
okay. They don't see problems. The problems have to be pointed out to them, like like the job. They might not see that needs to be done, and they might, but don't care. And so, but the way you motivate is if you get mad, just understand, if you get mad, they're digging their trench deeper. You understand? They're just digging it deeper, and they're not going to move if anger is your response. You're exacerbating your problem. And again, life is great, life is good, everything's okay. My marriage is fine, I'm happy, but she appears to be, or he appears to be, I'm not sure what their problem is. It's because they didn't see. And so even in a relationship, phlegmatics get in a relationship, and there's maintenance to do. Y'all notice that? There's relationship maintenance, and weeds can start growing, and the best way to take care of them is early. And again, the phlegmatic waits until it's an emergency. When it's an emergency, then they'll take care of it. But by that time, well, it could be too late, in some instances. But that's their approach. They appear wishy-washy. And again, they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. That's a priority to them. They would suffer loss before they'd hurt anybody's feelings. And they're kind of like, if a giraffe sat on their lap, they wouldn't say get up. I really don't want to offend the animal kingdom, So they're just very wishy-washy on stuff.
Politics, though, is when you want to turn the people outside your family into your family.
Right. Right. Yep. Well, how can you help? Well, practice making decisions. And this sounds almost silly. Practice making decisions. And if you're married to a phlegmatic, encourage them to make decisions. And don't, if you say, I just wish you'd make a decision. And here's the fear. A phlegmatic can make a decision and then get his hand smacked for making the decision, or get her hand smacked, Well, that's why I don't make decisions, because they're never right. And that's not right. I understand that, but people have a tendency to exaggerate things. And so when they make a decision, if it's not the decision you would make, and it's not going to kill anybody, then just brag on the decision they make, because what is praised is repeated. Now, if what normally happens in relationship situations, the thing that attracts you to a person is the thing that will ultimately aggravate you about that person. For instance, say here's a young couple, and he's just this choleric kind of a guy, and he's always making the date decisions, where they go, what they do, and how long they stay here, and she's fine with that. She just is so overwhelmed with his strength and his brawn and his decision making. And then they get married, and then she's talking to her other married friends several years into a marriage. He never listens to me. I don't ever get to make a decision. Well, excuse me, that's what attracted you to him to begin with. And so the thing that attracts you to a person can very well be the thing that creates problems in your marriage down the road. And so they appear wishy-washy. And so encourage them, make decisions. You're going to decide where we eat tonight, and make them make a decision. Well, I don't care where we go. Well, we're not going until you make a decision. And so, and even children, let them make their own decisions at a certain age. I'm not talking about 3 and 4 years old, but when they're going to school, let them pick their clothes out of clothes that you pick. They get 3 or 4 outfits, put them out on the bed, or look at them in the closet. Okay, of these 4, yes, ma'am. Yeah. And that's exactly right. No, we're not going to do that. And so if you want to encourage somebody to make decisions, then brag on the decisions and say something like, I couldn't have done that better myself. Now, coming from a melancholy or choleric, that's big stuff. For a choleric to tell you, that's a great decision. You did great. Well, that just kind of, really? Yes, you did good, and I'm proud of you. Well, guess what they're going to look to do again? Make a decision. And so let them make a decision and stick to that decision. And you're capable, perfectly capable of making good decisions. And again, you remember in the message this morning, everybody had said for decades, you cannot run a sub 4-minute mile. You can't. It would blow your tendons out in your knees. The human body cannot withstand that kind of pressure. And in 1954, Roger Bannister ran a 3 3:50. I think it was like a 3:59:30. All right, it was sub 4 minute. And that year, 37 people ran a sub 4 minute mile. Many of them were high schoolers. And so today, in 2019, a sub 4 minute mile is considered nothing spectacular. It was a mental barrier that people just thought, oh, well, I can't run that. You can't run that. Okay, well, then I won't run that. And nobody pushed themselves to do that. And so I can be a much better, I will never be anything other than what I am, by the way. If you're choleric, you'll never be anything but a choleric. If you're melancholy, you'll never be anything but that. Now, can we be better versions of ourselves? Yeah, sure we can. We can live in the area of our strengths. We can move out of the area of our weaknesses. And so I've got to step up to the place. I've got some decisions to make and get that done. And so those of you who are much better at decision making than we are, confirm our decisions and the choices that we make, just praise that and brag on that, and more decisions will be coming. All right. Yes, sir.
Again, I found this the biggest challenge of this study is move out of the weakness into strength and not say, well, you know how I am.
That's just me. Exactly. And that's the big thing, Jamie, that I've heard in this study. Well, now I know why that's the way God made me. God didn't make me to be weak. He did not make me to live in my weaknesses. He made me to live in the strengths, which is the spirit life, and that's what His. And so, if you want to tell hurry up, man, hurry. Well, actually, I am hurrying. That's your phlegmatic right there. Now, so quick phlegmatic overview. They are not moved or impressed by motivation. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Stupid. Yeah, that's a new one. We can make that. No, I'm just kidding about that. It could be phlegmatic. It could be. Because they just don't see things that need to be, they just don't see it. Right. Bingo. They were not trained according to their temperament to take care of things when they needed to be taken care of. You're right. I was just kidding about the stupid thing, but it sounds like it could be a phlegmatic that is just not motivated to get things done. But they're not moved in church service. What we normally do during the invitation is we play music and want to create an atmosphere of quiet, and they're not moved by motivation. They're not the kind at a football game, for instance. They're not going to paint their faces orange and blue and scream. They're not going to do that. They're not impressed by motivation. They move very slowly to avoid conflict. They'll get sick at their stomach if they know they've got a problem that they've got to face, because they're afraid, number one, they're going to do it wrong. The person's going to make an idiot out of them or make them feel like that. And so they move very slowly. They have little interest in what's going on around them. Did you know what's going on? No. Because it might require change. It might require engagement, and that's something that they avoid. They love leisure time, downtime, hanging out. They like watching TV, playing video, anything that will keep them from being engaged with their culture or with things that need to be done. They're nonplussed about labor-intensive projects. You get my meaning there? They don't like to be around people that are always pushing to get stuff done. They'll avoid. And I'm sure Nathan and your dad, probably Nathan was like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Here comes Pop. So him will go down the other aisle, because what's Brother Tom going to want to do? Get something done. Work. And what did Nathan not want to do? Work. It's like once you finish your job, let's take a break. The alternate grandson. They move at a measured pace, and again, to try to speed them up is hard, and it's irritating if you like to adjust the speed of people. They make great counselors because they're just easygoing and very peaceful. Yes, ma'am. No, that is a characteristic because there's an innate sense of I do the same thing, and I know what I do when something's going on, and I recognize that in you. So there's an ability to do that. You know, the cleric doesn't care how you feel. You know, just get your job done. That is not the primary concern. The primary concern is getting. Okay. Maybe I should have worded that a little differently. Okay. You know, we can talk about how you feel later, but right now, you know, let's get this job done. And but they do. You have a calming effect. There are some people that you can walk into their presence, and it's just like there's just this calming effect. And normally, it's this temperament type right here. They're utilitarian people. They can fit anywhere. They're the easiest people to take advantage of. If you're a salesman, this is the person you want to answer the phone. This is the person you want to come into the dealership because they're very easily persuaded because they don't want to hurt your feelings and say no. And so they've got they're easy to take advantage of. Don't do it. This is where unscrupulous people hurt people every day in this world. Who could take advantage? Back when we have hurricanes here, what happens? Every time a hurricane comes through here, uncredited builders come through here. They'll find an 85-year-old woman whose roof has been torn off. Ma'am, we can fix your roof. We need $5,600 to buy the materials, and we'll be back Friday. $5,600 out of her checking account, savings account, and they're gone. Never see them again. Who could do that? You know, but there are people that take advantage of situations like that. All right. I mentioned in the message this morning about learned helplessness. These are the people that can more easily be trained to be learned servants than anybody. They will be your indentured servants as long as you take care of them, as long as you treat them, and take care of their needs. But don't do that. You know, I hate to see people that are perfectly capable physically and mentally of taking care of themselves, but they have been so sheltered and I guess protected is the word, but they've almost had their motivation stolen by somebody in their life. I will take care of all. You just do what I tell you to do, and you teach them how to be helpless. We've got millions of people that are perfectly capable of working a job, but they're also perfectly fine with the taxpayer paying their bills. I can't tell you how opposed to that I am. That just makes a hair stand up on the back of my hands when people could work, but why? And about 5 years ago, for the first time in American history, it became possible to make more money on government subsidies than the average pay job in this country. For the first time in American history, you can make more money staying home if you could get all of the, I don't know, what do you call them? Yeah, get all the money that the government will give you, you know, the single mom, why would you work? If you're phlegmatic, especially, I mean, if you're any temperament, but especially if you're phlegmatic, why would you work if you can just go to the mailbox and get your check every month?
I've heard people say that.
Yes. And it's just like, wow, you know, does that not bother you? Well, no, it actually doesn't. Of course, that's not a distinct temperament type issue. I think that's just a cultural issue that we've created in our country. And so when they make a decision, if it's not the perfect decision, act like it is. Just encourage them, because what is praised is repeated. And so those of people in your world who are not phlegmatic, you can have a tremendous influence in pulling them out of their weaknesses, by letting that child make a decision. Brag on that decision when that decision is made, and they'll want to do it again and again. And pretty soon, they're making their decision, their appropriate decisions for their own life that they're going to need to be able to make when they leave home. All right? Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate it. Anybody got a quick exit word on this subject? All right. Cale, what are you, hon? You think you're sanguine? I think so, too. I think so, too. All right. And happy birthday again to you. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I think the best way to do that is if you could get her to dichotomize her. Let's take care of this first, and prioritize. If she's got 3 or 4 major things going on, find the most important, next most important, and don't worry about 4, 5, and 6. Number one. Let's take care of number one, and because we don't honestly do more than one thing well. We just don't do that. We don't. And so if she can do one thing, let's not even worry about this, and just walk her through. That would probably be the safest thing you could do. And it gets, if there's stuff that needs to be put up, to give you an example, if I've got a pair of socks and a gun out, and I need to put both of them up, and they even go to the same room. Sometimes I'll take the socks, put them up, come back, get the gun, and put it up. And I could have taken both at the same time, but I'm thinking one thing at a time. And thank you, John. That's right. I like that guy right there. I like that guy. All right. Anything? Yes, ma'am. Can I what? It will never change. You can just be better. You can be the best version of Cale, but you will always be a bouncy little redhead for the rest of your life. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. So, good question. Good. Now, are you happy about that or not? Okay? You're not going to grow up and be a melancholy or a choleric. No, that's not going to happen. So when you get married, Morgan is part of the deal. Kale, that's not true, is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's exactly the way it is. So, oh my goodness! Thank you all for telling your stories like this, because it fills in and it gives color and depth to what we're telling. It's not just academic here.
Evermore, just go sit in the corner of Anna's house for a while.
Oh goodness! All right, let's go to the house and see y'all Wednesday night. Be here, bring your Bible, and Jonathan's going to speak to us for Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that, man. Be praying for you. It's going to be the best 5 minutes. I said, man, don't do that to me. They'll expect that every week now. I don't know we're doing that. But looking forward to that. All right. Let's pray. Lord, we love you. Thank you so much for the uniqueness in this world. I mean, we've got hundreds of species of birds and animals and plants, and there's such variety in the world. And there's a variety of people. And we don't all grow the same flower. We don't all have the same fruit. We don't all say the same things the same way. And I'm glad of that. I'm thankful that there's a garden variety of people in this world. What a wonderful bouquet of human potential and strength and giftedness that you have planted in this world. And help us to complement one another's colors and contribution, because we all have it. And thank you for these who are here tonight. What a wonderful group of people. And I pray that you bless us as we take our temperaments into the workplace, into the marketplace of our culture, and may people see Jesus through whatever we are. In Jesus' name, amen.